Hello everyone, this is Kyle W. I'm going to make a quick video talking about the uh, the opcode, the M68K language for Vampire Savior. I spent the last week or two reviewing the test menu. I want to show you some findings I've had. So one thing I'll do here is I'll quickly show off the good stuff so people can check it out and then bail. And then afterwards, I think I'll spend some time talking through the actual reversing and how I got there, so the technical people are welcome to stay and get those details. Great, so let's get started. I like this version of FBA because it plays decrypted ROMs. I have a decrypted ROM set of VSAV. Boot it up. So if I do F2, I'm in the traditional test menu. So this is hitting the start button or the test button. You're going to have your typical input, output, sound and voice. Dot crosshair is 5, easy enough. So what I've done is there's VSAV mods, decrypted, location test data. So I take this file, just add it back to the ROM directory, and then relaunch the emulator. Press F2. There we go. So what I've done here is for the function that shows the generic test menu, I've changed the jump address for the ASCII. So instead of depicting the test menu 1 through 9, 1 through 8, I'm now actually showing the location test data. So for my review, the functions and the code that enables this data is not being tracked anymore, but the ASCII is still there as like artifact legacy data. So I was able to bring it up and show it. And as I said, we're still actually running the test menu. So there's a cursor here in the middle. And it's starting out in 1. If I go ahead and press jab, it's going to put me into the input. I can go back. If I go down to 2, it's going to go to output. So functionally, this is still the generic test menu. But at this point, I am displaying the location test, right? Cool. So that's something. This SPZ stands for Special Zabel, which is cute because it was Hyper-Zabel in another menu. And also, I have to mention that this particular location test data is not new. This is something that Jed had shown back in May of 2012. And his approach was to take this screen here, the color bar, and replace this color bar text with the text here for 6.0 location test data. Great. Let's turn that off. I was able to do a very, very similar method to depict another portion of data, which I don't believe has been seen yet. So this is like a first-time reveal. I hope you guys enjoy this one. The ROMs, great. Desktop FBA. Then hit 2. Great. So this is the secret test menu. Me and numerous others have seen this ASCII in the code for quite a while now. I was able to finally visualize it once again on this test menu. So if I go arrow down, it's still going to act like your typical 1 is input, 2 is output, but at least we can visualize and see what it was like. Okay. Something to note here is that this 6 here is block 1 test, and then if we go to the original, also keep note of this message test 9. We'll come back to that later. But if you know the original unaltered one, 6 is actually called game data. So I open the original unaltered version, back into FBA. Just want to show this. Back to the emulator. There. So 6 is actually called game data, and at the top you have 6.0 game data. So my first hypothesis is that the location test data is actually marked as 6.0 location test data. So I believe that it was rebranded as game data during the later publications because location test data is not a subcategory within the secret test menu. Great. Now let's show you guys the real good stuff. So the change is a bit stronger, and I'm not going to show it in the decrypted FBA. I actually went through the lengthy work of making the mod in an encrypted ROM set, so I want to show that off here. Okay, CD desktop, CD main VSAV debug, just because I like the debugger. Let's launch it. As big as we can. So this is my aesthetic mod, but there's a new feature I want to show you guys. I'm not going to put it in my mod, but you'll see. So from here, let's go to F5. So now you can quickly see that there's a difference here on number 5. It now says debug messages. It used to say like crosshair data cross something. This actual string of debug messages is something I manually modified. So I didn't dig that up from the code that existed. I changed the ASCII to read this. The important part was the jump, the location that this is going to, is a new functional piece of code. That's really exciting for me. So you jump in here, and now we've done it. We actually have functioning message test. If you remember back in the secret test, this was, I think, number 9. This message test is a debug function. So when I'm in here, I can press jab on P2 to change the color of the background. It cycles through like 7 or 8 of them. Black, 9 or 8 total, yeah. Great. So we cycle through this for the backgrounds. Next thing you can do is you can press start on player 1, and it changes what's called kind. And you could also say it's the condition, right? So Ranyu means to intrude, and this is relating to a mid-boss like encounter, an interjected story mode match. The Ranyu's mid-boss ending is the character ending, boss is a character boss, and win is a win quote. Okay, so that's if I press start on player 1. If I hit start on player 2, it actually switches the languages. So as you saw it with Japanese, now it's English, and here's Spanish, and here's Portuguese. So you can cycle through the conditions, you can cycle through the languages. So let's go to endings, English, because we can read this. Now, last couple buttons that operate is the up and down and left and right. So this is your like player 1 joystick, okay? If I go left and right, I'm actually going to cycle the messages, and you see that number, the 4th category, is cycling up through 9 here, because this Boletta, Akazukin is Boletta, she has 9 messages in her ending, okay? If I go up or down on the joystick or player 1, then it actually changes characters. So this is really awesome. We have each character, we can access all of their messages at any language with different conditions. Now, I guess I'll just show off. Here's Japanese. That's pretty cool. I'll show off a couple of the English ones, just because I know that we are mostly an English audience. We've done win. Let's do Ranyu. Here's English mid-boss encounter for Boletta. And I believe that is Boletta versus Gallon. Dmitry. Gallon. Yep, so that must be Boletta talking to Gallon. So then a couple other interesting points about this is the character, the OB character, OB meaning the hex value, which is hyperzable. So we've been seeing hyperzable in the code a few times. We also saw SPZ special zable in the location test data. What I'm seeing here is that all the messages relating to this character slot is actually identical to the messages of regular Zable. And that was true for all of the conditions, the win, the Ranryu, or Ranyu, probably pronouncing that wrong, every one of them. So that's fun. Lele, great. So what I'll do is I'll release a mod that gives everybody this access to just a generic ROM file. I'm certain there's a couple people that would like to go through this and play with it. Maybe some people are interested in translations. So we'll give them that chance. Great. Okay, so thanks for joining me. I'm going to talk for a minute showing off the code and some of the actual Ghidra stuff and how we got there, but this is it. Fully functional message text menu, colors, characters, languages, conditions, the whole deal. So last up, let's go to Ghidra, window R. I also want to say a big thank you to, God, there's so many people that's helped through this project, but definitely the 3 or 4 I have to recognize here would be Felineki, Jed, Mountain Man Jed Possum, and then probably Envy. Like, you 3 have been a humongous help here. All right, so I'll try to keep this as quick as I can, but I do want to show off the Ghidra environment and how I got there, if anyone's interested. So this is the data type manager. This is the types of data I've identified. If I come down here to strings, I can right click and find uses of. So all it's going to do is find everything in the code I've designated as a string. Okay. And you come down through here and see what they are. The first handful are just regular emulator stuff. That's your address registers, there's your bus errors, typical instructions, RAM checks. So this one here, this cluster of strings is actually for the default settings of the region. Background music. So now we're starting to get into some of the subtext that occurs during the test menu. Let's see, start equals P1 shot, and the different coin settings. Okay, we come down through here, now we start getting into some of the good stuff. So first we can see there's normal, off, Japanese, English, Spanish. So these are actually those languages that we were cycling through in the message test menu. We'll come back to those in a second when I talk about that change, but we saw them in there. Here we have calm and human. These are part of the card system. Okay, coming down, I want to show you, here's again, message kind language player. These are back to that when run you ending. Okay, and these are the characters. Great, and here at 1138F, this is where the actual test menu string of ASCII is, like the graphics for that are loaded, or designated, sorry. And I wanted to show specifically, we have, so test menu is 1 through 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 6, 6. So one of the later tasks I did was try to understand why there was 4 versions of the 6 game data menu. I did include those differences, and the recent tweet kind of alluded to what they were. So I'll pull up the little working document I had that, here we are, that said what they were. So I noticed there's actually 6 separate game data. So that's your 6.1. Here is your 6.1 or 6.0. There's 4 versions of them. So this is where each of the strings start. And then these are where the noticeable differences are. So this first one has a card. If you look at this, you see it says card. And the second one has a card plus an average time. So average time and a card. Third one is as we see it in our Euro version. So the no card, no average time. And then the fourth one is only an addition of average card. So after reading the opcode and what references which, I've come to understand that different versions reference different sets of 6. So this first set is Hispanic and Brazil. The second set is also Hispanic and Brazil, but there's an average time. There's like a flag associated to tracking a time when the card is enabled. So it's a like downstream of the same versions. The third one is what we always have, and then the fourth one, I'm not sure exactly how to trigger this specifically, like with the features in the game, but I was able to just run the game and turn the flag on and show that it's a thing. In fact, we could do that in our own MAME right now. I have MAME up? No, I did not. So if I go window R, desktop, cd MAME, MAME VSAV debug. start her up. And then the address I just listed was FF8086. So you go into the test menu. Oh, sorry, I have 5. Here's the test menu. And if I'm in game data, this is what we typically see, right? If I go out of game data and I change FF8086, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, change that to anything that's non-zero, just a flag, and go back in the game data, we now see there's a whole category here for average time. It isn't being tracked because you have to actually enable card mode to use it, but this speaks to that 4th game data window. Okay, I'll just pause this in the background. Heading back to Ghidra here, and then opening up my Ghidra sub window for strings. So that speaks to the 4 instances of game data. Now if we start counting option 7, we've got 1, that's the main one. We actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 instances of the menu 7.1 as well. And similarly, similar exercise, 7.1 is the first one is the standard. So this is what we see with Japanese, meaning that the graphics are replaced by the Japanese characters, and the settings are as minimal as they can be. The next set, the second set of 7.1, we now have an additional option for language, which you can see here. And language is switching between English and Spanish win quote messages. The third one is a voice type. So if I come down here, there's a new one called voice type. And voice type is specific to the Asia version of the board, and it allows turning off the Japanese voices. So there must be something about what languages can be spoken in certain countries. And then lastly, the fourth one, 7.1 down here, has C dispenser, win point. So C dispenser is card dispenser. And then the first win point condition is for the human opponent, and the second is for the computer opponent. So if you scroll up here earlier, there was a long list of how many columns and how many humans. These actually feed into the that card dispenser like card system win condition. Cool, great. So that explains the 6.1 game data screen and the 7.1 differences. Now let's head over here to the fun stuff. Japanese. Great. So this is the point in code where the strings for the message kind were recognized. Okay. So we can change from Portuguese, Spanish, English, or Japanese. And there was, this is actually the strings. So somewhere up here in the code, I could actually read it being referenced. It should tell me where it's referenced actually. Here, test menu, coin mode selection. Let's go there. On or off. Oh no, guys, sorry, I'm scrolling here for a minute trying to find something. Actually, I guess I should just go ahead into the source of it because EOD6 and then jump to CO2A. Yeah, so why don't I just add this up and then give you guys a quick answer. 0x EOD6 plus 0x 2 EOD6 plus 2AD6 plus 2AD6. This takes me to 10 BAC. All right, that seems recognizable. So we want to go to 10 BAC in the code. 10 BAC. Here we go. Debug messages. So this is where I had to start the jump to actually get the debug message test to run and function correctly. But if we scroll down here, we won't recognize much of this, but at some point you'll see those strings being loaded into the code in a way that lets me assume that there's a relation there. Yep, gotta scroll for a while. It's a bit of work. So I've named these functions and they're being referenced here, but I want to find where the ASCII is loaded as a reference. That's the string. Keep on scrolling. Well, I'm feeling a little embarrassed right now. I'm not seeing it directly, but I jumped to that 10 BAC address, 10 BAC, and the whole function works. So sorry I couldn't get to the live example, but I do recall that these strings are being loaded and referenced in another portion of code. So that was what gave me the indication that it was likely to be in this area. Let's scroll back up before I go ahead and kill it. And there we are, finally. My God. So here at 1108.4, you can see that it's loading effective address, and it's actually referencing the string. So because these strings, message, kind, language, and player, were referenced in this function, I would have a pretty good indication that this function was what was causing the message test. So when I went to find the address I needed to jump for, because I had to find this like guesswork on this one, 10, yeah, I literally just started down here and picked significant locations. So I think my first jump was there, nothing significant. Here, nothing. Kept going up, and eventually, when I went to 10 BAC, which took probably 15 or 16 good guesses up the code, right? Tried this, nothing happened. When I went to 10 BAC, it worked like a charm. So it takes some patience to get through this and picking where the code is really going to be effective, but the answer to the debug messaging, it starts right here at 10 BAC. Great. So I have a couple screenshots. I'll probably post them on Twitter. I think we're done with all of this. Yeah, so location test, same thing. It's nothing new. Jed showed us many years ago. And then secret test is new. Happy to share it. And messenger is new. Great. Okay, I'm going to the video. Thanks for watching. Thank you to Felineki, Jed, and NB. You guys have been amazing. Take care.